another edition of the In the Paint Show presented by Ballislife, episode 156. We're deep in the playoffs. I'm here with my man, Horace Neysmith and Umana, co-host, going to talk about our various power states in Georgia and Texas. We're in the last week of the high school season, and we're going to talk about some various topics, but mainly hit on the high school scene. But I guess, fellas, I just want to see how you guys are doing. We're obviously going to talk about some of these bigger NBA things that are out there. How's it going?
It's all going well, man. Just it's that time of year, the end of the high school season, the start of March Madness. It's a beautiful time. A lot of competitive games out there, I'm sure, in Texas, as is in California and all across the country. So, if you're a basketball head, it's a perfect time.
No doubt. March Madness is here. How about you, Ronnie?
Yeah, man, it's great. It's a great time, playoff basketball, championship basketball. So you're getting kids giving it their all, right? Not holding back. We got, like Corey said, like we're closing down one season, getting to another. We're talking about the spring, a lot of chatter on the spring and summer and just March Madness. I don't know. It's just a good time. Like March is just a beautiful time for basketball.
No doubt. Yeah, Ani, we'll get into some of the younger guys you may have seen, and we'll talk about some younger guys Horace got on his radar. But I guess we're talking about madness. We got to talk about this madness, this off-court madness in the NBA a little bit, man. It's just every day, every week seems like some, some people think John Morant could be the face of the NBA. I say no because he's playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. He ain't never going to be the face of the NBA. But maybe, he is one of those players that is in that mix. But if he keeps having these off-court issues or things that come up, we'll see what happens. But I guess there's an Instagram photo that shows him in a club in Denver, on a road game. And, he shows a gun and people see it on Instagram Live. And then first people are saying, well, did he break any gun law? Where'd he get the gun from? He's on the road. So, and it's just kind of trickled from there. Like first it was like, and the Grizzlies said they suspended him for 2 games, but now we're hearing more things and it may be longer. So Ani, what get your reaction to that? And just kind of like, obviously he's a great young talented player, and eventually these off-court distractions are going to become a distraction if they're not yet already.
Yeah, I mean, you just wish John Morant was just smarter, right? Like it was his own Instagram Live and he was waving the gun in the beginning, it doesn't make any sense. Just got to be smarter. You're making millions. You're the face of a team. You're one of the premier players in the NBA. Not the face of the NBA, but one of the premier players in the NBA. So why are you waving the gun around in the club, on your Instagram Live? He got to be smarter. And I think all the immature actions, I mean, this is kind of just takes the cake. You kind of see, I saw this coming at some point. I was like, okay, he keeps this up and, just thinks, oh, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Like you're going to keep taking another level. And then now here you are. He just got to be smarter. He doesn't have to do all that. Right. Like he never had to wave a gun on his Instagram Live. It's not like someone was filming him and he had it. It was on your own platform. So that's where it just is disappointing. He got to be smarter. Like he got to choose what he wants to do.
Gotcha.
I don't know the young man. Neither one of us do. But he's an exceptional talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And he has got to get the right people around him.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the stars in the NBA have types of dudes around them that help protect them, right? They don't elevate situations, right? They try to de-escalate situations, right?
Sure.
And I don't think he's got those right people around him because the stuff he's getting into, so like trivial, so it's so like why? Like it's unnecessary, right? So the guy that's next to you, that's supposed to be your guy, the guy that should say, "Hey man, don't do that." Those guys aren't doing that. Those guys that are around him aren't the right people for him. And I'm hoping at some point in time he understands that if they can't come around and do those right things for him, they're not the right people for him.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. You hear the Grizzlies are going to suspend him 2 games, or that's already happened. So maybe, like you said, he can reflect a little bit, say, maybe I need to change some things. But then bigger issues is people are saying, well, this is a road game. Did he bring that gun onto the plane? Did he get the gun in Denver? Now that involves something else, because now you're talking about league rules, and then you maybe even talking about Colorado law, so
right.
We hear about that now we're saying it could be up to, like, there's pretty strict rules about firearms and stuff on jets or private planes, or NBA rules. Again, these may not be laws of states, but now we're talking about potentially 50 games. At the end of the day, what do you guys think is going to happen in terms of, like, how long he's going to sit out, or just, is this going to become a huge issue, or is he going to be able to, get past it, change a little bit, and get back on the court?
Well, I'm a take a stand type of guy, so I think the NBA has to take a stand. I don't think, because if they don't, that leads to the next guy and the next guy, and the next guy. So I think they have to take a stand, a hard stand, whatever that number is, 10, 20, 50 games, whatever the number is. I don't know what's the right number. They would know. But they have to take a stand to help prevent this from happening again. Because if they don't, I don't know what it is with the culture. It's like the lines are being blurred between these guys that are making millions, and I want to be on the street. I don't really get it. I saw a post that John Morant made about, this has always been me, this will always be me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, making millions of dollars, you don't need to do any of this.
You don't
need none of that, right? So I think they have to take a stand in order to nip in the bud what the future may look like if they don't take a stand.
I agree. That Carmelo did an interview, and he talked about how when he talked to David Stern, he's like, do you want me to be in the league or not? And he said, basically he has to make an example out of him. And I think this is going to be the same thing with Ja. I don't know if it's going to be 50 games. I think it's going to be less than that. I think he'll get past it at some point. But he's going to be made an example out of. He's got to be smarter. And like Horace said, got to have better people around him. Just got to figure out what he wants to do. That's why I say, like, you got to figure out what you want to do. Do you want to be a basketball player, or do you want to, or is that, or you want to be perceived as a gangster or whatever? Like, you don't. At the end of the day, it's like when people talk about rapping, you are the rapper, or you're a gangster. You can't do both. You see guys that are getting in jail and stuff like that. Like, same thing. It's like, just figure out which one you want to be.
Yeah. Well, it's just similar to, like, in the high school scene, or even in a little bit in the college scene, not as much anymore, but when I was younger in LA, there were some guys there were ball players that were real gangsters, but they didn't have to say nothing. They didn't have to say, they didn't say nothing. That was the whole point. They just did it and lived it. And some of them played college and they got through that. And, college was a good experience for them, and others obviously didn't make it. But yeah, it's a little different. You get on social media, it's almost like blur reality. What's reality anymore? Back then that was real. I even wrote a story one time for ESPN. It was the 20th year of the riots, LA riots, which was 2012. That was 20 years later. Now it's 30 years later, 31 years later. And a player talks about, yeah, man, I was taking my heat everywhere I went at the time, but he didn't proclaim it. Some of his teammates knew. And that's just what he did, because he felt he had to do it, but nobody knew. And he just moved forward. And so now it's like we have a situation where the athletes, everybody knows what they're doing. And it's almost like that's almost as addictive, as dangerous as some of the stuff they're doing, that they have to feel they have to let people know everything. That's a dangerous move. Some guys may be plotting on you and say, hey, these guys are at this club. Let's go up there and try to start trouble or something. You just never know. So like you said, hopefully he changes that around. And, we don't want to spend too much time on it, but we're going to see that. And like you said, the Grizzlies, I mean, we're getting here close to the playoffs. They don't want him to miss 25 games or something like that. That's a big blow. And like you said, maybe that like Horace said, maybe that's a time he could use to reflect and get on the right track. But we'll keep it moving. We'll talk a little bit about Bronny making the McDonald's game. We spend plenty of time on that, Ani. And we wanted to get Horace's reaction a little bit to, he's now in the Nike Hoop Summit. Now LeBron is tweeting that he's watching League Pass and that Bronny's better than a lot of the guys that he's watching. So it's like, oh boy. So that brings out like a lot of reactions real quick. And Horace, I just kind of want to get your take on the National All-Star scene, Bronny making the Nike Hoop Summit. And then, he's still in the playoffs, which we'll talk about a little later. And kind of these comments a little bit, brings out a lot of reaction in a lot of people.
Well, like I mentioned the last time we were on the show, that I was on the show, I think Bronny is better than what given credit for, and not as good as what his supporters give him credit for. Right?
Sure.
Somewhere in between. As far as LeBron, I just, like we said prior to this call, I don't really understand the need to put your foot on the gas in relations to your son being an NBA player. If he's an NBA player, he's an NBA player.
Right.
If Ani's an NBA player, I don't have to keep telling people, Ani, you're an NBA player. It's like, you guys have been there, you've seen it, right? You've been in the gym where a guy tells you, come see Ronnie Flores play, man. He's one of the best guards I've ever seen.
Yeah. And
you show up to the gym and you're watching Ronnie Flores play. Ronnie Flores looks like a Division II player, right?
Like I look right now, like a Division II player.
And then the guy is trying to stand there and tell you, man, I'm telling you, he's high major. Man, this kid's got a pro chance. Like, wait a second. I'm watching him play right now, right? Forget about points. I'm not even talking about stats. I'm talking about the kid. I'm watching him. He's not that good. Now, I'm not saying that about Bronny's son being not that good. All I'm saying is you don't need to put your foot on that gas if he's what he is, right? Some things don't have to be said, right? And if you got to keep pushing it, you're selling it. You're selling me. You're selling the rest of the world. Yeah. And I don't think you have to if you feel truly that your son is where he needs to be.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that was just crazy. I had to read the tweet a couple times because I couldn't believe that he said that, right? I know that's his son and everything. People say, oh, that's his son. He wants to support his son. But it's this. Now we're just kind of getting to the point where it's just like, okay, like you're just putting unwanted pressure on him, and it just doesn't make sense. Let Bronny prove. First off, shout out to Bronny for making it to the finals, leading Cherokee into the finals. But let the kid play. Like, let him earn all this. People saying things and doing that, and LeBron doing that, it now takes away from it. To me, I feel like people don't even really know what type of player Bronny is. They're just like, people are just saying this and saying that, and people are arguing this and arguing that. And we're not even really watching Bronny play. We can't even like experience him playing basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not even the talk about his play. It's just saying, oh, he's better than some of the NBA players on League Pass, or he's a top 10 draft pick. But at any point, guys, as people talk, like, I just don't think we're really talking about the basketball player. I just think we're just talking about these, I ain't gonna lie, some crazy claims people are making about him. Like, let's just enjoy him playing basketball. And then if he earns being a top 10 pick, if he is that, like Horace said, let him show it. But just keep saying this type of stuff. I mean, usually stuff like this generally doesn't pan out right. That's where I'm at. Like, we've seen this before, and it doesn't end well.
Yep. So Sierra Canyon, as we mentioned in the last show, we were talking a little bit about it. They went 0-3 in the sectional pool play, bounced back to the state. They're in Division I, which is the second highest division, and they've been winning. Bronny had a good week, as you said. He had a 21-point game, led his team to a couple wins. They beat Etowanda. They are now in the regional finals. We shoot this is Tuesday, so the game will be Tuesday evening. It'll be Sierra Canyon traveling to Notre Dame at Calabasas High School, and they've lost to Notre Dame with Caleb Foster and Dusty Stromer 3 times already. So we'll see if Bronny gets them over the hump. All it takes is that one win. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we segment into the GHSA playoffs, Horace, speaking of good players, underclass players, we know the NBA Players Association Top 100 camp is coming up. We wanted to kind of let people know about that. You're involved, Horace, obviously with the committee, and that is going to be June 26th to 30th. And you also got a underclass All-American game coming up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
This is our 6th year, Ronnie, Ani. Started off in 2016. We had a 2-year hiatus, obviously, with COVID. And the event has been a springboard to a lot of players that were unknown. I always tell people, it's funny story. One of the coaches in the very first game I did coached Zion Williamson in that game. Yeah. So fast forward about 3-4 years later, his son tells him, I remember when Zion played in the underclassmen All-American game, and the coach is saying, no, he didn't. So yes, he did. Yeah. And I had to send him the picture of Zion in uniform at the game. He's like, I don't remember this kid. He actually had a good game too. So it's been a great event. The game benefits diabetes. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and that's the road I decided to go down to try to highlight some of these kids, kind of operating in a space that no one really was operating in terms of a game, not in terms of a camp, but in terms of a game. And it's been highly successful. So this year we expect the same level of talent, and I'm excited about it.
Gotcha. Let us know.
It's on March 26th at Maynard Jackson High School. First game started at 11 a.m., 3 games. That's the 8th grade game, the Rising Stars. And then we'll have a select game and then the classic game featuring the top freshmen and sophomores in the country.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. That's for the input. I think you've had, like you said, some terrific talent. Some guys who went down there. I know you inquire. Give us a name or two that you expect to play in the game.
Got Jason Crowe. Let's talk about Cali kids. You got Jason Crowe playing. We had talked about Tunde Yesufu.
Yep.
Also playing in the game. Giovanni Ruff, West Coast kid. We got East Coast kids. Got Manny Green, who's one of the kids playing in the Georgia High School State Championships. Freshman who I told you earlier is probably top 50 with top 25 talent.
Great.
We have, just the level of talent is equal to probably any year that I've had. And that included the year that I had Chet Holmgren, Paulo Banchero, Keontae George, KJ Adams, Harrison Ingram, KD Davidson, Michael Foster, Paulo Banchero, all in the same game.
Wow.
So I think this year I'm excited about it. And I just look forward to seeing the young kids play. Most I've seen, some I didn't. I'm really excited about watching this 8th grade kid who, this is no exaggeration, he's a 6'11" small forward. And he's not a wannabe small forward. That's what he is.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about seeing him. I've watched him on video. He's a kid from Florida, James Rivera. I'm excited about seeing him play.
Yeah. We're excited about, hearing about it and seeing some of those kids play as well. Obviously, you mentioned Jason Crowe. He's another kid who's still alive in the regional. He's in a lower division, Division 5. Jason Crowe's now top 5 single season all-time scoring in California. This kid 1,200 points. Horace, I went to his 60-point game that he had. So, I mean, he had one, and I kind of picked it because I said, okay, they're blowing out a lot of guys. I need to go to the best league opponent they have because he'll stay in for a long time. He won't be pulled. Man, he had a 60-point game. So.
That's crazy.
He's scoring. Obviously his father played collegiate ball at American University and at Cal State Northridge. So Jason Crowe Sr., who played high school ball with Paul Pierce. And, he's the head coach at Linwood High School. So the fans down south will like to watch Jay Crowe. Horace, you got a lot of things to do. You got a lot on your plate, so you're going to have to get going here soon. So let's jump right into GHSA playoffs, the state of Georgia. You mentioned some of the underclass players in that Sandy Creek Cedar Grove game. That's a 3A final. Tell us a little bit about the 2A and 3A final in the lower divisions. Sandy Creek versus Cedar Grove and Providence Christian versus Augusta Westlake.
Well, you got with Cedar Grove, Sandy Creek. Sandy Creek has a junior that's really, really good. Yeah. Micah Smith, probably a top 100 type talent, about 6'7", 6'8" kid, athletic, great motor. He's the catalyst for that team. They're as good as he is. I expect Sandy Creek to win the game. That would be my prognosis. But the freshman Manny Green is special. He's a 6'5" guard, and he can really get at it. And so I look for that to be a good game, but I look at Sandy Creek coming out on top.
Gotcha.
West Side and Providence, that's the interesting game in that most people hadn't seen them play. And when I say most people, Providence Christian is a small school here in Gwinnett County over in Lilburn, and not a school that produces much talent. Sure. Never gotten this far in the playoffs as far as I can remember, but they've had a great season. West Side Augusta's had a great season, so it'll be interesting. That game is a game probably has a lower profile than all the other games. Sure. I would probably put Charlton County, Wilkinson County in that category as well with 2A. But a good game nonetheless. The game, to me, there's no surprises. I think we talked about this earlier, Ronnie. There's no surprises in any of the teams getting to where they've gotten to, except for Cherokee.
Gotcha.
We've been waiting for the Norcross Wheeler finals since they played in the finals, I guess, in 2005, I believe, back when Jody Meeks played or whatever.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it since, and we thought this year was the year. And, of course, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Cherokee upset Norcross in the semifinals. Cherokee is a team that, Wheeler hasn't walked over them. I mean, they played them twice. They beat them by 9, beat them by 13.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can contain their shooters. That's a big thing for Wheeler. And then, of course, you got Isaiah Collier on that Wheeler side with Arrington Page, and that's a kind of formidable duo right there. So
no doubt
that'd be an interesting matchup, only because this is the third time, and you know how hard it is to beat a team 3 times.
Oh yeah. Notre Dame is going to maybe have that issue with Sierra Canyon. Fourth game here coming up real fast, but. Yeah, obviously Wheeler's been nationally ranked pretty much the whole year. They're up to 33 in the Fab 50. They actually took a loss to Sierra Canyon out in California. They play some tough teams. Amatip, Columbus, Paul VI. Those John Marshall they played. So, can the third time be a charm for Cherokee, or does Wheeler just have a little too much firepower?
On paper, Wheeler should win the game.
Sure.
We all know what paper is. You could tear paper up real easily, right?
Sure.
So it on paper they should win the game. They're deep, they're talented. They got a National Player of the Year in Isaiah Collier. So I think it's a game that they should win. I'm more interested in the Eagles Landing Kell game. I think that's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
I think that game is evenly matched. 2 tough teams. Eagles Landing, only losses to Dutchtown all year. They got 1 loss. I think Kell has 2 losses, one of which is overtime to Grayson, who was a 7A powerhouse.
Yes.
So that's the game to me as a basketball guy. That's the game that I think is going to be a really good game. And then, of course, Pace Academy. I think Sharman White is going for like his 20th championship.
Yeah, he's got a lot of championships. Shout out to our guy Sharman. Yeah.
He got upset in the regionals by Lovett and the kid Christian Anderson, who was committed to Michigan. I think he put like 40 on him in that game, but they recovered, and now they're back in familiar grounds in the championship game. So that'll be interesting.
Got you. Yeah, going back to that Cal Eagles Landing game, I happened to see Cal at the Tarkanian, so I saw one of their 2 losses. Like you said, they lost to Grayson. They lost to West Ranch, who ended up winning that tournament, and now West Ranch has been knocked out of the state. And so now is Horace, in your opinion, is Cal and or Eagles Landing the winner of that game? Is that like close to a nationally ranked team, or do you think they're kind of a step below that?
I think they're a nationally ranked team, the winner of that, for sure.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Both teams have been good for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Eagles Landing actually has probably been good for the last 3 years. David Thomas, he's their catalyst, tough senior point guard, kind of got that New York kind of swag to him. That's where his pops is from.
Sure.
So I think they're nationally recognizable team in terms of what they've done over the last couple of years and what they've done this year.
Got you. Makes a lot of sense. That's and the games are, some of them are the 8th, right? A couple games are on the 9th and all the way through the 11th.
That's correct.
They're not all in the same day. What? No, they cannot. Is that because they have them at different sites? Why don't they try to go all in one venue? Is that how it's always been?
You know what? Well, I think part of it is because they don't do like Tennessee does, as an example. They'll do girls one day, boys the next day.
Yeah.
Well, in Georgia, they mix them up. They'll have girls and boys the same day. So you got, there is 8 divisions in Georgia.
Too much for one day.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. And, single A has 2. They got single A public, single A private, and then they got 2A all the way up to 7A.
Yeah.
So I think that's a part of it. The very last game will be on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think everything starts on Wednesday.
Yeah, so it rolls out. And when we do that sometimes, in California State Finals this weekend, obviously Tuesday night will be the regional final, and then the state finals are at Golden One Center where the Sacramento Kings play. Like you said, Horace, we go girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy.
Yeah.
So it gives me time to do some writing and get it knocked out, you know.
Don't get me started with California. I cannot figure out their process at all, man.
Yeah. We talked about that last week. Don't try to figure it out. Just know that there's 2 games left. J. Crowe has up to 2 games left, and Bronny has potentially up to 2 games left. And you mentioned Wheeler, and Ani said this last week. He says, I think if Wheeler wins the state title, he does good at McDonald's, Jordan, etc., that he could be our national player of the year. I believe he's already won the Neysmith.
That's
and
correct.
Our voting, Horace, which you've been part of, Cam Boozer was first place, barely by 2 points over Isaiah, and DJ Wagner was third, Ronald Holland fourth, Justin Edwards fifth. I wanted to get your quick take on that. And Cam Boozer and them just won the state title in 7A in Florida, and obviously Isaiah's going for it. And you know, Horsey, Ali mentioned that he's really excited because McDonald's, especially with the Bronny factor, like those practices and stuff are actually going to mean something this year because it's not a set in stone class. So I wanted to get your real quick opinion on that before we let you go.
Well, I think Collier has, particularly if they win the championship, I think he's really put himself in the catbird seat to be player of the year. Yeah. You know, I'm a body of work guy. Sure. His body of work over 4 years, to me, warrants him being the national player of the year. Definitely if he wins the state championship. Yeah. Boozer's had a great year. He's sophomore. Guess what, young fella, you got time. We'll wait on you for next year. I don't want that shouldn't be part of the equation. Yeah. But I mean, when Collier's done what he's done, he's already won one, won another, and have the year he's had. I'd say he's my number one guy.
Got you. So we appreciate it, Horace. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for. We know you got to go. You got to run. Me and Ani will close out the show, but thank you for your input again. The game's on the 26th, correct? Your underclass.
26th, Maynard Jackson, underclass and All-American. Yeah. Hoops for Diabetes. Come out, check it out. Yep. Hey, by the way, all kids 14 and under are free.
14 and under free. That's great. Appreciate it. And Georgia fans in the South, please hope you can make that game and support a great cause. So appreciate it, Horace.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Horace.
All right, bye-bye.
So yeah, Ani, he that's a great game he's had now. Like, time's going by, 2016, 8 or 9 years. 8
right.
years. And he had some good players in there. I know he's gonna be excited to see J. Crowe down there. J. Crowe too. That boy is averaging.
He's a bucket.
He's averaging a lot of points. I mean, we'll jump to him, but that's. Man, that 60-point game, I was like, oh boy, and Brandon Martinson from Mater Dei had a great freshman year too out in California. Mm-hmm. Speaking of freshmen, let's jump into that. You went to the GHSA grassroots event, and let's talk about 226s. Is there any 226 alive in UIL, or is not really a big freshman right now making a big impact?
That's a good question. Let me look here.
Well, we got let's see the matchups we got.
Finals.
Yeah, you got 2 more games left where Georgia just got 1 game left.
Right. Well, Colleen Ellison with JoJo McIver, 226, about 6'2" guard, very talented. He plays like this tertiary and fourth scoring role for them, but he has a chance to be a high major guard. There's a lot of tools, long arms, just can impact the game in other ways. So JoJo McIver for Colleen Ellison. Colleen Ellison's hot right now. That game against Mansfield Summit in 5A in the semis, and then probably going to see Kimball in the finals. They're excited to see. But JoJo McIver, people may not really see it as much, in San Antonio this week, but I think he has a chance to be a high major guard. So we got JoJo. Let's go here. Summit, not really Kimball. No. Family, they have a kid named Winston. He's been their backup guard. He's done a good job. He's just been very solid. I think he'll become a Division I prospect. But on a team like Faith Family, who's been the Fab 50 for a majority of the season, and he's been playing a role like that is coming off the bench and just playing solid minutes. And Faith Family actually had 2 guards that were ruled ineligible by UIL. So I don't even think the kid even realized how many minutes he was going to get this year. I think he's just like, okay, I'm going to come and be on JV, figure things out. So Winston's done a good job for Faith Family. They're projected to win again. We'll talk more about UIL playoffs. in a little bit. But yeah, I would say those two for sure just kind of stand out as a freshman playing a bigger role on a team that has got to San Antonio and going to need to play a fairly big role for them to win it all.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Obviously we talked about Jason Crowe. They're in Division 5. There's 5 divisions plus the open, so 6 divisions in California. Like you said, for you and Horace, it's a little confusing to follow. Again, we're shooting this on a Tuesday. The regional finals are Tuesday evening at various sites. Crowe with 33 points in his last game win over Southgate, which is right in Linwood, and that's where I grew up in that area. I grew up in Southgate. I didn't go to high school there. He has 1,219 points, so he passed Jared Lucas, who was at Oregon State. He passed Leon Wood, who played on the '84 Olympic team and played in the NBA and has been his NBA ref, and he passed the late Winters Patterson, who was a great scorer from San Francisco Balboa about 25 years ago. And he died in a tragic accident. He in a pickup game on a concrete floor, on an asphalt blacktop, he hit his head and he perished. So Winters Patterson, shout out to him. He was a great high school player. But yeah, so the guys in front of Crowe are like Tracy Murray, Tony Clark, 2 NBA players, an MLB player, and another guy who played for his father. So it's like he's getting into rare company, and just as far as the straight scoring, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's in rare company. He's a freshman. That's what's that's what we all like. We're not talking about upperclassmen. We're talking about a freshman. I mean, you say you're gonna watch a kid score 60 in a game, and he's in he's surpassing this as a freshman, 1,200 points. I mean. Yeah. Yo,
he's a bucket. He's a bucket, and you give him some credit. Again, that's not the highest level we're gonna see, but he's gonna. You're gonna probably want to watch him obviously this spring and summer. So
absolutely.
That's something to keep an eye on, and hopefully he makes it down to Horace's game and has a good showing. So let's go over these matchups in UIL, which is again in San Antonio this weekend upcoming, which is the 10th and 11th. Obviously, I believe the semifinals on Friday and the finals are on Saturday. Is that accurate?
So yeah, the semifinals is Thursday, Friday. Yeah, and the finals, the finals will be Saturday. So I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know much about 1A to 3A because that's little touchdowns. No offense to them, it's good basketball. Like when I go out there and watch them, I always find the kid, but I have no idea about like hooks or Lippin or Hitchcock or Childress. I have no idea.
Wow.
So our primary focus is going to be on the 4A, 5A, and 6A. And so on Thursday, you got 5A, which the first matchup is going to be Kimball versus San Antonio Veterans Memorial, who Veterans Memorial's had a good season. Yeah. Kimball is projected to win that. They've just been clicking, even the regional semis and finals, beating Red Oak, which I was surprised they beat Red Oak that bad by 20 plus. Yeah. And then being Lancaster and having a good lead for majority of the game. Tijon Brown, the kid RJ, who transferred from a private school out in Cedar Hill, Cannon Wickware going to UIW. They just got a lot of pieces, and they've just been really rolling. Brock Holland, Kimball plays fast. They get after it. They're very loose. Nick Smith lets his players play very loose and very just get them going offensively. And so all he demands for them is just to play defense. And then offensively, they can do what they got to do. So I think that blend right there just made Kimball very successful. And no one thought Kimball would get here again. Last 2 years with All-American and a high major guard like Chauncey Gibson and Arterio Morris, they thought, okay, if you don't win a championship with this group, you're not going to win it no more, right? Yeah. So, and Nick's his job came into question after last year, especially with the the situation on the bus last year. So, Nick's gone through a lot of things. Just want to give a shout out to him for him to lead this team again for a third consecutive season here, and they have a really good chance of winning. Talking to him, you see, I've seen that he's learned a lot from his experience, and he's more prepared. He's got the boys prepared. So Kimball and San Antonio Veterans Memorial will be the first one for that 5A. And then at 8:30 on Thursday, you have Clean Elson and Mansfield Summit. And that one's that's going to be a fun one. both teams, it's defense is their calling card. Colleen Ellison really held a Fort Bend Marshall team in check in the regional finals and really made Jalen Lowe, Pitt commit, just really have to take tough shots. Yeah. They get after it. Like, you know, people know about Jemiah Keller, who's going to Oklahoma State. They have an unsigned senior named Deion Ware, who just picked up an offer from Old Dominion. They have JoJo McIver, the freshman who I talked about, and they just mean, just mean and play hard and athletic as hell. And then Mansfield Summit is just the same way. There's no Summit out of the three teams I really talk about, and obviously Ben's Memorial, they don't have that, you know, who's your go-to guy, whatever. They just have like 5 or 6 guys that can just really play. You got a kid, Frank Diamu, he's a guard. Guy has some D2 stuff, but he's talented. He's grown. He's about 6'5" now, can shoot it and score it. You got 2 teams that basically play the same. Mean, athletic, play hard, and defense is their calling card. Like, they're just going. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 40-35 game. You know, just one of those low scoring games because both teams are just ready to play against each other. And then when you talk about 4A, they actually play on Friday, so that would be the afternoon. You got Oak Cliff Faye Family and Canyon Randall. Don't know much about Canyon Randall, but Faye Family just loaded. They had a scare kind of against Dallas Carter in the regional finals. Carter was actually up on them at halftime, but Jaden Toppin, the New Mexico commit. I mean, I say this, he's really good. New Mexico got a really good one there. I mean, that kid is he's one of the most under the radar players in the country. Just pogo stick bounce, lefty. You can't stop him going off that right shoulder and getting to that left hand hook and finishing. Plays above the rim, rebounds his ass off. Yeah. He's just really good. And they got Doran Onuchekwu. They have Isaac Williams. I mean, they're just loaded. Jazz Henderson. They're just really good. Like, they're just a good team, Yeah, and then Ben, like we talked about in the Fab 50 for a minute, and then you got champion Bronny, and then Houston Booker T. Washington. That's going to be a good one. Bernie's always kind of makes it this far each year, and they have a solid discipline group. Booker T. Washington, I think, is the team that can really challenge Faye Family in the championship, and I project them to win this game. When you talk about with Booker T. Washington, hold on. We got Chris McDermott, who's a junior, about 6'7", athletic, just plays hard, gets after it. I like to see a matchup of him guarding Jaden Toppin because they play that hard. Prairie View commit Kenneth Lewis, who's a wing, about 6'7", can shoot it, athletic, scores it, and they have other pieces. They can match up better with a Faye Family as far as size, as far as athleticism. And neither of them, like, as good as Faye Family is, they aren't that deep, right? Like, they only play about 7 guys, really. And Booker T is going to be the same thing. I just think Faye Family from 1 through 5 is better than Booker T. But Booker T can guard Faye Family. And I think that's just the hardest thing is guarding Faye Family for 4 quarters, which was hard for Carter. That's how Faye Family kind of just got after it. But be interested to see the guard play for Booker T against a team like Faye. And that finals will be interesting. Like, I have Faye Family winning it all, but I think Booker T can give them a real challenge for 4 quarters.
Yeah, that's going to be a hell of a game if they both advance. It sounds like they will. You know, our guy, Jamie Hicks, has been talking about Booker T. Booker T's like, hey, don't watch out for Booker T. You know, I've been seeing his tweets, and they can play with them. Again, you know, when you look at Booker T, I guess, I don't know if you saw the game, Ani, but when you go back to Beaumont United, they're rolling at 35-1, and they're in 6A. That was their one loss. Where was that loss at? And you know, do we know anything about that loss or how they got there?
That was like Beaumont United's first or second game. I know it was out in Houston, and I wasn't there, but Booker T put it at him, gave it to him pretty good. Like, I think the score was still fairly close, but Booker T just controlled the pace and everything. I think they just kind of got at I think Beaumont United was kind of shocked how Booker T was playing. Like if they had to play that game again, it would still be fair. I think it would still be decently close, but I think Beaumont will pull ahead. It was early in the season.
Sure.
Beaumont kind of came in, kind of underestimated them, and Booker T just, they clocked him. They clocked him. So but again, it's like when you talk about Chris McDermott and Kenneth Lewis, those are two guys in your front court that can match up with any front court in the state of Texas. So that's just a tough group. You get in their guard play solid. So yeah, that's what happened there.
Yeah. And again, if we run those down again, that was in the 6A, Beaumont United with just that one loss is playing in the semifinal against Brennan, and then Lake Highlands, even higher in the Fab 50, Beaumont's 13, Lake Highlands 8 against DeSoto. But going back to 4A, we mentioned Oak Cliff, Fake Family, and Dallas Carter, and I had Oak Cliff ahead of Dallas Carter. I think the TABC had Dallas Carter ahead of them the whole time.
Yeah.
Let me just wait on that and see how it goes. I didn't realize they were going to play in the regional final. So, this week, obviously Oak Cliff has to move up a little bit on the court. They're 29-3. One of their losses to Link. The other losses are at the Tarkanian. They obviously have a forfeit loss, so they would actually be 30-3 probably in the record book. But yeah, they beat Dallas Carter, who just stays at 38 for now. The reason why is because Kimball, if you look at Kimball at number 40 in the 5A semifinal, they beat him. They beat Kimball, Dallas Carter in overtime. Yeah. And then they also, the other losses to Wheeler, who we talked about with Horace. So they have a really, good record overall, Kimball. But for now, obviously, Faith Family is going to want to see Kimball win while they win. In other words, it would look good if Kimball wins.
Yeah.
Because that Dallas Carter win will mean a little bit more. In case, like, if Kimball were to get upset in losing the semifinal to Veterans, then it'd be like, okay, maybe Dallas Carter wasn't that good. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah.
And what happened in that regional final game? Like, how did Faith kind of pull ahead? You mentioned they were down. Did they just kind of wear them down, or was it just too much Jaden Toppin?
Just that front court play, Jaden Toppin. It was just that front court play was just a lot. He just, they did a good job holding Faith to 24 points. And I think Faith, just gave more of a heavy dose of Jaden Toppin. And when that gets going, it's just tough. And then he gets on the offensive glass, and he starts putting it above the rim. And then, once he gets going, it's hard to stop. Like, he's one of the few big men I know. You see guards scored in bunches. Yeah. And Jaden's just a big man that scores it in bunches. And then once he gets going, it's just, you feel a little helpless because you're not blocking the hook, especially when he rises up. Yeah. He's just he's blocking everything. He's run the floor like a gazelle. And boy, just he can be a lot. Yeah. And the reason why,
again, I've seen them the 4 games, so I know they're a very good team. Again, wasn't really sure how good Dallas Carter was, but Horace talked about Cal and Eagles Landing in that state final in Georgia. And that would be in 5A. And the reason why Cal's not ranked right now is they took a loss to West Ranch, who's now done. So those teams can still pop in. Again, I'm not really sure if Carter in the coming weeks can stay at 38. Again, they lost by 12 or 13 to Faith Family. But it's going to depend on the other results. Again, it's not over till it's completely over, so other people can win and lose. I think eventually they're going to drop. Maybe Kimball surpasses them. Maybe Kimball, if they win state title, deserves to be ranked higher than them. Again, just so happens Carter's in the same region.
And Carter too, that lost to Pinkston. In district. That was good for Pinkston, but losing them in district did hurt them.
Yeah, correct. So they may drop again. They lost to Beaumont United. They lost to Pinkston. They lost to North Crowley. So those that lost to North Crowley and Pinkston may come back to bite them in the at the end of the day. Again, it's not over yet. So we have the new Fab 50. Go check it out on Ballislife.com. We got 3 new teams this week. St. Edward of Lakewood, Ohio jumps back in. They got as high as 40 before. So they're back in at 45. They've lost to Division IV Richmond Heights. Richmond Heights is rolling in Ohio. They're 25-0. They're up to 39, one spot ahead of Kimball. Okay. And then the two new teams is Durango out in Vegas. So we talked about them winning the state title, and Corner Canyon, who's a state champion in Utah. And Durango had beat Liberty with D-Don Thomas, that group, 3 out of 4 times. And that's one of Corner Canyon's losses is to Liberty. So, Corner Canyon only has 2 losses, and one of them was to Liberty and the others to Beaumont United. Corner Canyon lost to Beaumont United in Utah. And so that's that ended up really being a really good resume, just losing to those 2 games. But the reason why Notre Dame is not ranked, Notre Dame in California, who's playing Bronny and them this evening on a Tuesday night as we shoot this pod 156, is that they lost to Corner Canyon. So Corner Canyon comes in 50 and Liberty comes in at 49. So in essence, Notre Dame would be like 51, 52 in that range, and we'll see what happens. Again, you got to knock off Sierra Canyon for the 4th time. Right. So basically my point is that the rankings are not done yet. Even though some teams are done, the rankings are not done depending on who you win and lose to. Like you said, every win counts. Like you remember, so you're saying Pinkston lost. Like that's something that sticks in your mind. Like, okay, that's not a good loss. You know what I mean? You don't want to drop that on a national level. You can't really drop just random games. There's too many good teams, too many teams with 1 loss or no losses. So we'll see how that goes. Let's jump into the big game, the big games of the weekend. At the Alamo Dome would be the Beaumont United versus Brennan and Lake Highlands versus DeSoto in the other semifinal. Talk a little bit about those 2 top 15 teams. Lake Highlands is number 8 and Beaumont United's 13. And again,
man. Yeah, like we talked about it. I talked about it earlier. I projected Beaumont United and Lake Highlands to see each other in the finals. And Lake Highlands, they handled Byron Nelson pretty good. In the regional finals. Trey Johnson, golly. He's really, really good. Just the scoring. People say he takes tough shots, but I don't think they're tough shots. At 6'6", and he rises up and no one's blocking shot. I don't think it's a tough shot. He just is really good. Samson Alaton, the big fella that's going to Yale, has been really good especially on the offensive glass. Quentin Perkins been really good. He's a guard that's been getting some unsigned seniors, getting some low major looks. And then Jalen Washington is one of the shiftiest guards and a top tier guard in 24 in Texas who committed to UNT. So, they're loaded. Lake Highlands is loaded. It's hard to stop them offensively because at the end of the day, I can just give it to Trey Johnson or I can let Jalen Washington rock out. They're just very lethal on the offensive end. Beaumont United they just got a good blend. When you talk about Portier, you talk about Wesley Yates, who's just a stone cold killer at the end of the day. And then you got the guard, I forgot his name, who makes shots. They're like Beaumont United is like 5'6", like just really, really strong. And your 7, 8, and 9 guys can hold their own, and that just makes them good. But they just got to blend on that offensive defensive end. And when you got a dude like Wesley that you can go to late, or you can go to just to make things happen. And he's been there before. He's a playoff vet. He's a 2-time champion at the end of the day. So I see those two just seeing each other in the finals. And I got Lake Highlands winning it. I got Lake Highlands winning it. It's going to be a 1-2 possession game. And that's crazy for me to say that, especially Beaumont United just being there before and being there twice and winning twice. But I think Lake Highlands, I just think then Trey Johnson's the best player in the Alamo Dome. And when he gets going, I've seen him just go on scoring runs that just deplete teams.
Wow.
And I've seen Wesley kind of do that, but not to the level that Trey does. And that's why Trey's number 1 player in the country. He's not taking anything away from Wes. But I got Lake Highlands taking edge, like a 2-point win.
Wow.
But, San Antonio Brandon, I talked about their young core in Arkham Ballislife. Kingston Fleming's been leading it. He had 31 or 33 points in regional finals versus San Marcos. He's a 2025. We talk about how loaded that 25 is. He doesn't really get talked about, and he's a high major prospect. DeSoto's a good story. Coach Bacon kind of came in. They weren't very good at all, and now he's got them to the Final Four. But people talk about I heard something like, man, if Duncanville was here, you know, some of this would have happened. But
hey, but that's why other people get opportunities. When you don't get the opportunity, somebody steps in. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's my point, is that they took the opportunity and they're here, because there's a lot of teams that could have taken that same opportunity, but teams like DeSoto are here. And, you know, shout out to Coach Bacon and them. You know, I think he just got, I want to say 700 win or something like that this season. So he's been here a long time, and he's led the DeSoto group that they don't have like a no-brainer Division I guy. They just got a lot of workhorses. So you know,
sometimes it's a good team, and maybe they'll keep it really close against Lake Highlands. You know, we had Trey Johnson on our preseason show. That seems like, man, that's just
years ago.
It seems like that's years ago. And now he's, you know, he kind of was like, hey, we're ready. We're going to step up. We're going to play good team defense. And he wasn't lying. You know, they come in at number 8 in the Fab 50. This week they move up a spot. Obviously, Paul VI took a loss on last Monday, meaning 8 days ago in the Washington Catholic Athletic Conference final to St. John's. St. John's is a team that came out west and won Torrey Pine. So they won that league title. Shout out to Coach Behan. We talked about that. So they drop a little bit, and Sidwell Friends comes up all the way to 15. Sidwell Friends ended up winning the DC Conference League. And, you know, they knocked off a team that had knocked off St. John's later in the week. So, yeah, St. John's had that Monday win, and that's a huge win. Then they come back and play in the DC League. And then, you know, sometimes that's hard to win back-to-back. So they got knocked off in the semifinals against Jackson Reed, and then Sidwell Friends knocked them off. So you can read all about that on the latest Fab 50 on Ballislife.com. Like you said, it's pretty interesting. With the main difference between UIL and California now, CIF, is that UIL still has great teams in each division of the top 3 divisions that you were talking about, which is 6A, 5A, and 4A. There's 2 nationally ranked teams in 6A that can meet in the finals, and there's a nationally ranked team in each of those divisions, 5A Kimball and 4A Faith Family. Well, we don't have that in California no more, because everybody gets moved up to the open division, so they all knock each other out. At the top. So, you know, Centennial rolled in their regional semifinal win, Centennial Corona, which is rolling, and they haven't lost in California. They're up to number 7, 1 spot ahead of Lake Highlands. So their main common opponent is Duncanville. Both of them have lost. They both were what? 1 possession games, or did Lake Highlands lose by 2 possessions? 1 or 2 possessions.
It's like 1 or 2 possessions
at most. Yeah, same thing with Centennial. They had a chance to win that game at the field house on the last possession. So Duncanville's kind of been the standard for a lot of teams. They've knocked out a lot of teams in this range, you know, of ranked teams. So Duncanville comes in at number 4, and they might just stay around that. I mean, they have no more games left to obviously move up or down too much. So, you know, that's the main difference between California. Is now the open division is so premier. It knocks out the lower divisions. But it gives teams an opportunity. Ani, you mentioned that with DeSoto. It gives other teams an opportunity to kind of like, okay, we can win a lower state championship. May not be the open, but it's still very good. So Centennial's at home against Harvard Westlake, who bounced back from that loss to St. John Bosco to kind of beat them this time. So Harvard Westlake's up to 21, and they're rising. You know, again, they got the split with St. John Bosco. That game will be at Centennial. It's not at a big neutral site because it's on a Tuesday.
Okay.
And then up north, it's the guy that Horace talked about, Tunde Yusuf at St. Joe's, is playing Modesto Christian. So if Modesto Christian wins and Centennial wins, it'll just be a rematch of last year's state final. You know, our guy BJ Davis going to San Diego State's having a great playoff. They got Jalen Brown, Prince Osea. So for Bryce Fantasia's group, they're stepping up. They're not quite nationally ranked right now. They took some losses earlier, but they've really turned it around. And again, not against him, knock on him specifically or individually, but when Jamari Phillips left to Arizona Compass, that team just got closer. They just got more locked in, and they were having a tough time of it at the beginning. But once he made the move to Compass, they've kind of stepped up and they kind of got closer as a unit. And sometimes that happens, Ani. You know, that happens at all levels of basketball, college, NBA. So that will be 2 good games. That again and then the winner will play Saturday night at the Golden One Center. In Division I, I guess we got to talk about it a little bit. Sherman Oaks, Notre Dame, which is in the same league as Harvard Westlake, who they lost to, and the same league as Sierra Canyon, which they beat 3 times. So Sierra Canyon's kind of bounced back. Our guy Bronny's had some good games, and they're winning without Isaiah Ehenlima and without Justin Pippen. So I think, to Horace's point, Bronny might be a little better than where some of them are giving him credit for, but he's probably not like better than the guys on League Pass.
Right.
So give them some credit. They're playing pretty good.
Playing good.
Yeah. They're doing a good job. Again, that's without Isaiah Ehenlima. When people see him on TV, usually the comments on Twitter are, "He's the best player on the team."
That's the best player. That's the best player. Now, but to Bronny's credit, you talked about him having, building his resume up, his play, I was like, okay, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Let that talk.
Let that talk. Them 3 wins past week were good, and we got a big one tonight that we'll be following. Obviously, I'll be watching the Centennial game, but people are going to be following that, and let that do the talking a little bit, especially if they get that win over Notre Dame, which has 2 great players, and they have a good team, and they've played a really tough schedule. Notre Dame, they have 10 losses overall, but they're very good. But it's very interesting. Wheeler, you got Christ the King in New York. These are some of the teams that Sierra Canyon has beat. So it's not like Sierra Canyon won those games, so it's not like they're not capable. And it's very interesting because the fans in Sacramento, Ani, at the state finals, they haven't had a chance to watch Bronny make it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In last year they got bumped off, which was the first year back. And then in 2021, there was no state finals.
Right.
COVID. And in 2020, they won this regional game that they're playing in tonight. Zaire Williams, who's now in the NBA, hit a jump shot at the elbow jump shot to beat Etowanda at the buzzer. And that was supposed to be their first, that was going to be Bronny's freshman year, and that would be a trip to state. So he hasn't made it to state. So Paul Gasol, let me ask you this: Paul Gasol's getting his jersey retired. Is LeBron going to be over there with Paul, or is he going to be watching Bronny?
Go watch his son. Go watch his son. You're gonna see LeBron in his boot watching his son play.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. So yeah. In the Division I final up north, again, this is the regional finals tonight, is Salesian is playing Granada. 2 good teams. Salesian has a lot of good players. Austin Johnson, they got a really good point guard to transfer in from Hawaii. He's playing good. Granada is part of the toughest league in the Northern California, the EBAL, which was terrific this year. They didn't win the league title. That went to Doherty Valley, who was in the Open. Doherty Valley got bumped off by St. Joseph's, where Tunde plays. And I got to give a shout out to Julius Price, too. He's a 226 at St. Joe's, who's in the Open North. And he's had a great season, 226. He has some international experience. He's going to be a player to watch, and I'm sure Horace is going to want to watch him down the line, and you as well, at camps and things like that. 226 point guard Julius Price. He had a really great game in the regional semifinals. So yeah, jumping back to that D1, Granada, which is in that tough league, EBAL, East Bay Athletic League. They got Andrew McKeever, 7-footer, big man, and they got Tyler Harris, who actually played at Salesian last year, and he's about 6'7" forward, D1 prospect. One of the few remaining D1 guys that teams are really looking at and should be looking at. Instead of looking at that portal, he's one of the Ani, there's really not that many guys left in California that are going to go before a portal guy. There's just maybe 6 or 7. You don't count him, Bronny, and a few others I can name offhand. Tyler Robertson.
Yeah, same here.
How many guys in UIL seniors are going to get a look in these last couple games? Is there any? Yeah,
you're probably going to have maybe Dion Ware.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's slim pickings.
Quinn Perkins, you're talking about maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah. that makes sense. And again, that's just the nature of the business. Again, we always on this pod tell seniors, keep your options open. Watch NAIA games, watch D2 games, watch, lower division games, because it may be where you're going in
junior college,
international junior college. Tyler, JC, San Jack.
Yeah, I'm going to Region 14 after this pod. I'm going to the Region 14 conference.
Tell us a little bit about the Texas JUCOs right now. What's the landscape, and is there a great team or a great player?
Yeah, so in Region 14 right now, you got Panola and Trinity Valley that they have a bye. Panola's going to kind of turn it around. Their first year coach has done a really good job with them. And then, Panola and Trinity Valley's been really good this year. Navarro and Tyler Junior College has been okay. But the landscape is kind of shifted. It's always been like, I wouldn't say shift too much. It's Panola just being as good as they are this season. It's a little bit of it's different, but like your traditional powerhouses like Trinity, Tyler Junior College, Navarro, they're kind of down. Kilgore's been solid, had a really good group, just hasn't put it all together, but it's just solid. But the landscape is just, they're even asking about transfers, like what type of players they need to be recruiting and stuff. And those coaches have kind of had to figure out how they're going to recruit going forward, which is creating more like there's not just one team dominating the league or this team. Like it just it's going to be someone different every year. It's kind of what it's looking like now compared to the past, like Tyler or Kilgore, this team was going to make it. We're going to get a bye or this, that, and the third, or Trinity Valley, Navarro. Like it could be Coastal Bend, it could be Paris, it can be, it's I feel like it's more wider this year than anything. So yeah, it's just I'm gonna go watch the first day, and just those guys, they're really getting after it. They're battling for Division I scholarship, just like our high school guys are. So you're gonna see a lot of Division I coaches there, and it's an interesting time just to see how the JUCO recruiting gets to Division I level, how the JUCO coaches recruit high school kids, and just watching like which teams are actually really good now compared to in the past, who would really be on top of Region 14.
No doubt. Yeah, and California has its own separate junior college system from the rest of the NJCAA. Obviously, for many years, and I believe it's still the same. Like the teams have to play and go to Hutchinson, Kansas for the nationals.
Yeah,
California has its own system of junior colleges. So there's so many, and a lot of great players come out here. So they have the California State Championships. Looks like the favorite up in the northern region is San Francisco City College, which has been very good. In the southern region is Fullerton JC, which is coached by Perry Webster, our guy Perry Webster, who was a former player at Mission Viejo, and Devin Uggan, our guy is on his staff. So
what?
Yeah. So it's very interesting that that happened, and they're a good team. You know what I mean? And they got Sean Newman. You talk about he's a D1 guard. I've told a few schools that are pretty high level about Sean Newman over at Fullerton, and they're actually taking a look at him because, like they said, Ani, they're not that kid can help them now. Like they need help now, not some of these.
Absolutely,
like, they need some help. So
there's no big learning curve with.
Yeah. And he's getting coached up well by Perry and his group up there. So we'll see how those state finals take place at the same time as those finals take place at the same time as the California state title. So this a college coach may sneak over there on Friday, and then again it's in the middle of like I believe it's Lemoore College or somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Then they got to shoot up to Arco if they can make it. So you got to choose wisely because you can only watch, like you said, there's not only so many available guys, and then you got to figure, do I have more chance of these junior college guys? Can I go find a diamond in the rough or get one of the guys off the top teams, or do I go to the high school and see again? And then if you're a college coach, like Horace said, certain states are all girls and all boys. If from the college perspective, I want to watch 4 or 5 boys, games in a row. There's no need for them to go if there's half the thing is girls. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. That's just we're talking about recruiting now. We're not.
Yeah, it's not good value at the time.
Yeah, we're not talking about the fans. We're talking about college coaches. So it's just difficult because what are you going to do in those hours that the girls are playing? You got to make phone calls or do some work or do something. because you can't be resting now. So, we appreciate everybody tuning in. We wanted to give a shout out to the Retro Room and some of the other podcasts, and we hope to get a few more podcasts maybe in the works, Ani, to join the network. We could use it. We could use people subscribing, hit the like button,
please.
There, we've had a couple of these are going to be crazy weeks. We're going to be busy. I guess next week we'll talk about March Madness. We got the conference tournaments. I'll probably go to a day or so, the Pac-12 here in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll shoot up to Sacramento for the state championships, and then we'll have a quick report. Obviously, everybody will know about what happens. Again, and the big game is Saturday night, Open Division, and we'll by that Saturday we'll have a lot of conference championships in college done, and then Selection Sunday, and we'll come back probably really early Tuesday, maybe Monday. We got to knock it out because it's going to start right away, and then we got the first round of the tournament. Then we'll be off and running to the grassroots season already. Anything else you notice across the country, Ani, or in any other state, or anything else you're looking forward to?
No, I'm actually really just Crowe was just so interesting to me. Just like I ain't gonna lie, like I just want to see how he's gonna do. And just in the summer ball, just seeing guy put up numbers like that, I'm just like, okay, I have to see this kid. Like I've seen this kid just keep putting 30, regardless. People can say whatever about the comp. Like it is hard to score 30, 40, 60. I don't care. So for him, he's been one. I'm like, okay, I gotta see him. Like I gotta see him in the spring and summer. But other than that, I'm interested to see just how everything's going to pan out in the spring and summer. How these teams are just going to formulate who's going to stand out. Again, the 24 class is kind of like the 23 class. It's not right now projected to be a great class, but like who's going to come out of nowhere or come out, burst up on the scene or whatever. How does that class, we'll get a clear look at them, by June. So that's just my whole thing is I want to have a better feel of this class. And that's just me. But how about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the Scholastic a little bit. I'll be able to watch in California. Is going live now. Cali Live, boys, Cali Live 23 in the first weekend. So that's the June 16th through 18th weekend. Then the following weekend, still Section 7 out in Arizona, which some of the California teams will be there again, maybe 35 of them. And then that's what TABC will be live. Yeah. And is that in Dallas? And that's June 20. That would be 20. Have to be 23rd to 25th.
Correct.
That weekend. So that I'm looking forward to that. Like you said, I like seeing teams in the Scholastic setting. I want to see, like you said, what teams end up where as far as the grassroots setting. Who's going to end up at Nike, who's going to end up with Adidas. That's always interesting. Honestly, we're going to see some jumping after the first weekend. People are not going to be happy with their situations,
right?
But we still got about a month left of high school because we got the
Geico
state championship invitation in Geico. State championship invitation and is 1 week after that. So that would be April 6th through 8th. That should take place, I believe, in the DMV region. That's coming back for its second year. Okay. And to be honest, Ani, we talked to Paragon about that last year. That was just getting off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't get a lot of buzz probably, but maybe this year will be a little bit more. They've added 2 states that are eligible. New Jersey, we talked about New Jersey ending their TU Tournament of Champions. So Roselle Catholic won the non-public B, and that's probably the best team. If they do choose a New Jersey team for that event, that would be the team. It would be Roselle Catholic with our guy Simeon Wiltshire and Mackenzie Mugbu. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Mbako, yeah.
2 good, that they're a good team. They're state champs. So if that event is April 6th through 8th. So we still got about a month left of the Fab 50, Ani. We got about 5 weeks left. So it just keeps going. Some other states are going to be finishing in a couple weeks. Indiana, a bunch. Some are done, but some are still rolling. But after, we took a look at 3 big states. So we'll get a lot of clearer picture after this week.
Ronnie, it's like when people say the season's closing. Like for you, it just keeps going. It feels like another month that just gets added for you. With this Fab 50.
Correct. The Fab 50 keeps going. We got to take every result. So there's going to be more. Another end of season event that I believe we'll be talking about next week.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, our guy, we're going to get our guy Darren Duncan to talk a little bit about that. He's kind of spearheading that event. and that should be in Atlanta at an
Mhm.
HBCU. We'll get more details and whom that's going to entail, which teams that's going to entail. But again, so we got 3 end of the season events. That Geico and State Championship Invitational. Again, that's the weekend after. So I would think, Ani, with Florida being part of the State Championship Invitational, Calvary Christian rolled to that last year with our guy who's now was at Montverde this year. You would think Columbus is going to get invited.
Right.
With the Boozers again, maybe they'll create more buzz. Again, all events need time to create buzz. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you got to find the right weekend. I know some people kind of criticized the weekend last year. It was saying, hey, why are you going through the live period? But this year is a little different. So 6 through 8. So the last game of the season, as far as I know right now, again, something else is April 8th. And we'll come back on that Monday, April 10th, and put out the final rankings. And then we'll officially be done. And then we'll be getting into the summer, like we talked about, NBA Players Camp, Pangos Camp. You'll see Crowe at one of these places. And then, then we'll get ready after the live TABC and California and Section 7, we got to get ready for the draft. I know our girl Chelsea, who's deep in her playoffs in Israel, she's looking forward to that. I know you'll be looking forward to that because, again, Ani, for next year, we're going to be talking about Vic and Scoot a lot and maybe a few other guys.
Right.
We're going to have a lot of information on that. But the thing is, like you said, some more guys got to emerge from this NBA draft, or maybe Bronny is going to go. Some more guys are going to have to emerge because, like you said, we got Trey, who's been a guest on Trey Johnson, been a guest. We got our guy Ian Jackson, who, quite honestly, frankly, having a good season, but he's not having a knockoff season like, wow.
Right.
And their team isn't either. And there might be a few other guys that are not really wowing it like Trey is, right? So who's going to emerge?
Yeah, like I know Dylan Harper's, he's kind of came along, like you said.
Yeah, correct. John Bosco. Yep.
But other than that, yeah.
We need to see more.
Yeah, we need to see more. I mean, we're talking about 2 guys.
we definitely need to see more, and we will. So we appreciate you guys. I think we're going to wrap it about up for this episode. Again, the season is rolling along. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. Again, go like that Ballislife podcast network page. For Horace Neysmith, Chelsea Hopkins, and Ani Umana, we're going to get out of here, guys.